The darkness of space was absolute, wrapping around the broken hull of the UESC Bastion like a heavy blanket. For weeks, the only sound inside the massive dreadnought was the low hum of failing life support systems and the quiet footsteps of the crew. The ship was drifting near a dead moon, hiding among the rocks and dust. It was the last place anyone would look for a warship, especially one that belonged to a species the galaxy believed was already dead. On the bridge, the lights were dimmed to save power. Captain Alex Mercer stood in front of the main viewing screen. His hands were clasped behind his back, and his eyes were fixed on the star field. He was a tall man with graying hair and a face that looked older than it actually was. The weight of the last few months had settled deep into his bones. He wore a simple uniform, stained with grease and oil, because formal dress didn't matter anymore. All that mattered was survival. "Status report," Alex said, his voice rough from lack of use. "Still nothing, Captain," replied Commander Sarah Rip Vance. She sat at the tactical station, her fingers dancing over the cracked screen. Sarah was a tough woman, sharp as a knife, and she was the only person who could match Alex's stubbornness. "We are running on fumes. The reactor is at 10%. If we try to jump to warp speed, we might explode." Alex nodded slowly. He knew the numbers. He had memorized every meter of the ship, every bolt, and every dead crew member. They started with a fleet of 300 ships. Now, they were down to 1. The rest were destroyed by the Vorians. The Vorians were an alien race with technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. They didn't just fight wars, they erased civilizations. Earth fell in 3 days. "We can't stay here," Alex said. "Eventually, they will scan this sector. They are thorough. We hide, or we die," Sarah said softly. "Those are the only 2 options left." Suddenly, a red light began to blink on the communications console. It was a faint signal, encrypted heavily, but it was coming from the Vorian frequency. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission," Sarah said, her voice tight. "It's on the open Vorian command channel. They aren't trying to hide it?" "Put it on the main speaker," Alex ordered. The bridge filled with a cold, mechanical voice. It wasn't speaking English, but the ship's computer translated it instantly. "Purge of the outer sectors complete. Survivors are minimal. The Galactic Coalition forces are fleeing to the Nexus star. The Grand Fleet will mobilize there within the cycle. We will end the resistance." The message repeated, looping over and over again. Alex turned to face his crew. On the lower deck, looking tired and pale, was Lieutenant Mike Ross. Mike was the youngest officer on the ship, a genius with engines who had been pulled out of college to fight the war. He held a tablet in his hand, looking at the engine diagnostics. "The Nexus star?" Mike asked, looking up. "That's the shipyard, isn't it? That's where they build their biggest ships." "Yes," Alex said. "And that is where they are going to hunt down the last of the Coalition refugees. Thousands of aliens from different worlds. They ran away when Earth was destroyed. Now, the Vorians are going to finish them off." Silence filled the bridge. The crew knew what this meant. The Vorians were not going to stop until the galaxy was completely under their control. Humanity was gone, as far as the Vorians knew. The Bastion was a ghost ship. "If we stay here," Sarah said, standing up and walking to Alex's side, "we survive for maybe another week. But everyone else dies. The galaxy falls. We can't win a fight against the Grand Fleet, Captain," Mike said, his voice shaking slightly. "We have 1 railgun left. The shields are patchwork. They have thousands of ships. Alex looked at the young engineer. You are right, Mike. We can't win. Not in the way wars are usually won. But we have something they don't. What is that? Mike asked. We have nothing left to lose, Alex said. He looked around the bridge at the tired faces of his crew. The Vorians fight because they want to conquer. They fight for resources and land. They are careful. They calculate their risks. But humans, we fight differently. When our backs are against the wall, we don't calculate. We just swing. Alex walked to the center of the bridge. He looked at the rusted metal floor and the flickering lights. He thought of his home in Boston, now just a crater. He thought of his family, gone. The galaxy thinks Earth was weak, Alex said, his voice getting stronger. They think we were a speed bump for the Vorians. But they are wrong. The Vorians shattered the galaxy, yes. But they didn't break us. Not yet. He turned to the helm. Mike, I need you to take every bit of power we have left. Life support, gravity, everything. Divert it to the engines and the weapons. Even the emergency batteries. Mike's eyes went wide. Captain, if I do that, we won't have gravity. We won't have heat. If the engines fail, we freeze in 5 minutes. I know, Alex said. Can you do it? Mike looked at the tablet, then at the captain. He took a deep breath and wiped his hands on his pants. Yes, sir. I can do it. But it will be a rough ride. Sarah, Alex said, turning to his tactical officer. Prepare the navigation computer. Set a course for the Nexus star. Maximum speed. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. She saw the determination in his eyes. She knew this was a suicide mission. They would fly into the heart of the enemy fleet with a broken ship. But she also knew that dying in the dark, hiding like rats, was worse than dying in the light. Course plotted, Sarah said, a small smile appearing on her face. It's going to be loud, Alex. The whole galaxy is going to hear us coming. I hope so, Alex replied. I want them to know who sent them to hell. The ship began to tremble. The vibrations started deep in the hull and grew louder. Mike shouted orders from the engineering console, rerouting power flows and bypassing safety protocols. The lights on the bridge flickered and died, replaced by the dim red glow of emergency battle stations. The gravity shut off, and Alex felt his stomach lift as he became weightless. Reactor at 100%, Mike yelled, holding onto a console to keep from floating away. The engine is hot. We are ready to go. Sound the general alarm, Alex commanded. Let the crew know what we are doing. No secrets. If we go down, we go down together. A siren began to wail throughout the ship, echoing in the empty corridors. It was a sad sound, a lonely sound. But as it rang out, the crew didn't panic. They grabbed their stations. They checked their weapons. They looked at each other and nodded. They were the last of Earth, and they were going to make this count. Hold on, Alex said, gripping the captain's chair tightly. Take us out. The UESC Bastion roared to life. Its main engines, which had been silent for so long, erupted with a blue fire that could be seen for light years. The massive ship pushed away from the dead moon, shedding its disguise. It turned its bow toward the center of Vorian territory, toward the Nexus star. The ship was scarred and ugly compared to the sleek Vorian vessels. It was held together by prayers and hard work. But as it accelerated, pushing past the limits of its design. It carried a cargo more dangerous than any bomb. It carried the unbreakable human will to fight. Below decks, soldiers checked their rifles and pilots climbed into their cockpits. They knew the odds were zero. They knew they would probably never see Earth again, or any planet. But as the stars stretched into lines of light before them, they felt a strange sense of peace. They were done running. Alex watched the stars blur on the screen. The Vorian transmission was still playing in the background, talking about their victory. He reached out and switched it off. "They are expecting a victory parade," Alex said quietly. "Let's give them a surprise." The Bastion jumped into warp speed, tearing a hole in space. In a flash, they were gone, leaving the safety of the dark moon behind. They were heading straight into the lion's den, ready to bite back. The galaxy was about to learn that you should never count humans out until the very last light goes out. The UESC Bastion tore through the fabric of space, shaking violently as it traveled at maximum warp. The ship was old, and the strain of pushing the engine this hard was taking its toll. Sparks flew from overhead panels, and the metal hull groaned like a dying beast. Inside, the crew held on tight, floating in zero gravity as the ship jumped through the stars. On the bridge, the silence from before was gone, replaced by the chaotic noise of alarms and shouting crew members. The red emergency lights cast long, eerie shadows across the room. Captain Alex Mercer strapped himself into his chair, watching the warp distortion on the view screen. Beside him, Mike was working furiously at his console, trying to keep the engine from overheating. "Temperature is critical, Captain," Mike yelled over the noise of the ship. "If we hold this speed for another minute, the core might breach. We need to drop out of warp soon." "Not yet," Alex said, his eyes fixed on the navigation data scrolling in front of him. "We have to get as close as possible before they see us. We only get one shot at a surprise attack." Sarah was at the tactical station, her face illuminated by the glow of her screen. "We are approaching the Nexus system," she reported. "Sensors are picking up massive energy signatures. It looks just like the intel said. The shipyards are active." The Bastion began to slow down. The violent shaking smoothed out as the ship transitioned back to normal space. The stars on the screen stopped blurring and turned into sharp points of light again. Immediately, the ship was surrounded by the debris of battle and the massive structures of the Nexus shipyard. Alex leaned forward, his breath catching in his throat. It was a terrifying sight. The Vorian shipyards were enormous, floating in the darkness like metal spiders. Thousands of ships were docked there, swarming around the massive stations. There were small fighters, heavy cruisers, and the terrifying capital ships that had destroyed Earth's fleet. It was the largest gathering of military power the galaxy had ever seen. "We are inside their perimeter," Sarah whispered. "They haven't scanned us yet. We are just a blip in the radiation from the shipyards." "Keep us hidden," Alex ordered. "Mike, cut the engines. Let us drift. I want to look like a piece of junk floating in the void." Mike nodded and punched in the commands. The rumble of the engines died down, and the ship went silent again. The Bastion drifted silently behind a large asteroid, watching the enemy fleet. Everyone on the bridge held their breath. They were a tiny fish swimming into a pool full of sharks. Suddenly, the main communication screen lit up. A face appeared. It was a Vorian, a tall, gray-skinned creature with large, black eyes. The alien wore a helmet that seemed to be part of its armor. It was Admiral Vex, the commander of the Vorian Grand Fleet. "Unidentified vessel, the Vorian voice hissed through the universal translator. This is a restricted military zone. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed. Alex looked at Sarah. He hadn't expected them to be found this quickly. Do they know who we are? He asked. I don't think so, Sarah replied. Their sensors just picked up a hull signature. They don't know it's human yet. Open a channel, Alex said. Let's talk to him. Sarah hesitated for a second, then pressed a button. Channel open, sir. Alex unstrapped himself and floated up to the camera. He smoothed his hair and straightened his jacket. This is Captain Alex Mercer of the United Earth Space Command vessel Bastion, he said clearly. I am here to negotiate your surrender. On the screen, Admiral Vex didn't move. His black eyes stared at Alex. Then, a sound came from the speaker. It was a dry, rasping noise that took Alex a moment to realize was laughing. Earth, Vex hissed. Earth is extinct. Your cities are ash. Your species is a memory. You are a ghost. I'm very much alive, Alex said. And I have a ship full of people who are very angry. Tell your fleet to stand down, and we might let you leave the system alive. The laughter grew louder on the screen. You have one ship, Vex said, his voice full of arrogance. One damaged, primitive ship against the might of the Empire. Do you know how many ships are in this fleet? Do you know how many worlds we have burned? Your defiance is amusing, little human. But it is pointless. Maybe, Alex said. But we're here. And you know what they say about rats backed into a corner. Enough, Vex snapped. I am busy preparing the purge of the coalition refugees. I do not have time for games. Destroy this annoyance. The screen went black. Sarah looked at Alex, her face pale. They are powering weapons, she said. We have target locks on us. 3 cruisers are turning their guns this way. Shields up, Alex commanded calmly. Mike, prepare the engines. Sarah, load the kinetic cannons. We aren't running. Sir, Sarah said, there are too many of them. If we fire, we will only scratch the paint on their hulls before they turn us into dust. Not if we hit them where it hurts, Alex said. Remember the void drive. Mike's eyes widened. You mean the engine? It's unstable, Captain. If we use it to power a weapon, it could tear the ship apart. It's the only weapon we have that they haven't seen before, Alex said. They expect lasers and missiles. They don't expect a gravity pulse. The Vorians began to fire. Green energy beams shot through space, slamming into the Bastion's shields. The ship rocked violently under the impact. Alarms screamed louder, and more sparks showered down on the bridge. The shields flickered, glowing blue as they absorbed the energy. Shields holding at 60%, Sarah shouted. They are concentrating fire on our port side. Mike, give me everything. Alex yelled. Charge the void drive to maximum. We are going to ram right through the middle of their formation. You're crazy, Mike muttered, but his hands were flying across the keyboard. But it just might work. The void drive is spiking. I can channel the energy into the front hull emitters. The Bastion lurched forward as the engines roared back to life. Alex gripped the armrests of his chair until his knuckles turned white. On the view screen, the 3 Vorian cruisers were getting larger and larger. They were blocking the path to the center of the fleet. Evasive maneuvers, Alex ordered. Don't try to dodge everything. Just take the hits and keep going. Direct hit to the bow. Sarah yelled. Hull breach in deck 4. Force fields are holding. The ship shuddered, but it didn't slow down. The Bastion was like a charging bull, ignoring the pain and focusing only on the target. They flew past the first cruiser, so close that Alex could see the alien gunners in the turrets. The Bastion returned fire, sending a barrage of heavy metal slugs into the cruiser's side. The alien ship spun out of control, venting gas and fire. "One down, 1,000 to go," Alex muttered. Ahead of them lay the heart of the fleet. Hundreds of capital ships were gathered around the central command hub. It looked like a wall of steel. Admiral Vex's ship, the largest of them all, sat in the center. "He is in there," Alex said, pointing at the view screen. "He thinks he is safe. He thinks this is just a cleanup operation." "Void drive is ready," Mike shouted. "The gravity pulse is primed." "But Captain, once we fire, the drive will be useless. We won't be able to warp out of here. We will be stranded in the middle of their fleet with no engine." "I know," Alex said. He looked around the bridge at his crew. They were afraid, but they were ready. "We don't need an engine to fight. We just need a target. Lock onto the command ship. Let's show them what humanity can do." The Bastion accelerated towards the enemy wall. The Vorians were confused now. They couldn't understand why a single ship would charge into certain death. Their formations wavered. They hesitated. In that moment of hesitation, Alex saw his chance. "Fire!" he roared. A shock wave of distorted gravity shot out from the front of the Bastion. It was invisible, a distortion in space itself, moving faster than light. It slammed into the front line of Vorian ships, crumpling them like paper. The beautiful, sleek alien vessels were twisted and torn apart by the force of gravity. Shields shattered and hulls collapsed. The Vorians panicked. Their communications were filled with screams of confusion. They had never seen a weapon like this. It wasn't technology they understood. It was raw, destructive power. "Keep firing!" Alex yelled. "Don't stop until we reach Vex." The Bastion plowed through the wreckage, its hull scraping against debris, moving closer and closer to the Admiral's flag. The war for the galaxy had begun, and the humans were leading the charge. The bridge of the Bastion was a chaos of flashing red lights and shouting voices. The gravity pulse had cleared a path through the enemy fleet, but the Vorians were quick to recover. Swarms of smaller alien ships darted forward like angry hornets, their weapons glowing green as they fired at the human dreadnought. "Shields are down to 40%. Sarah yelled, her hands flying over her console. "They are targeting our engines." Captain Alex Mercer gripped the armrests of his chair as the ship shook violently. "Keep us moving. Mike, give me more power to the forward guns. I want them to know we are still here." The Bastion turned its battered hull toward the incoming swarm. The Vorians expected energy weapons, lasers that could be blocked by their advanced shields. They were not prepared for what came next. The human ship opened fire with its rail guns. These were massive guns that used magnets to shoot heavy metal slugs at incredible speeds. The slugs tore through space, silent and deadly. They smashed into the Vorian fighters, bypassing the energy shields completely because the metal slugs were too heavy and too fast. Alien ships exploded into balls of fire, filling the void with debris. "They are breaking formation," Sarah shouted with a grin. "They don't know how to react to kinetic weapons." On the view screen, the destruction was beautiful to watch, but it was far from over. The larger Vorian cruisers were moving in, their heavy guns charging up. The Bastion took another hit, throwing crew members out of their seats. Smoke began to fill the bridge, making it hard to breathe. Damage report. Alex coughed, waving the smoke away from his face. Hull breach on Deck 3, Mike yelled from the engineering station. Fire suppression teams are responding, but we are taking a beating, Captain. The structural integrity is failing. In the science station, Dr. Emily Stone was watching her screens with intense focus. Captain, I am detecting a data spike, she said, her voice calm despite the chaos. The Vorians are trying to hack our computer systems. They want to disable our weapons remotely. Alex looked at her. Can we stop them? Emily smiled. I was hoping they would try. Mike, are you ready with the package? Mike's face lit up. Oh, I am ready. Let's see how they like human computer viruses. The Vorians were a species that relied on logic and order. Their computers were perfect and cold. They expected to fight a clean digital battle. But humanity had brought something else. Mike hit a button, uploading Cyber Warfare Package Alpha. It was a malicious software code created by Earth's best hackers, designed not just to shut down systems, but to infect them. Suddenly, across the Vorian fleet, ships began to spin out of control. Their targeting systems went offline. Screens turned black or displayed strange, scrambling images. Success! Emily cheered. The virus has entered their central network. It is locking them out of their own weapons. But the humans weren't done with the psychological warfare yet. Alex nodded to Sarah. Sarah, broadcast on all open channels. Use the playlist. Sarah typed in a command. Suddenly, the sound of heavy electric guitars and thundering drums blasted through the speakers of every Vorian ship. It was loud, aggressive rock music, a genre the aliens had never heard. To the Vorians, who communicated in soft, calculated tones, the noise was terrifying. It was raw emotion and rage, turned up to maximum volume. The confusion on the Vorian ships was visible. Even through the vacuum of space, the disruption in their communications was causing panic. They were creatures of silence and precision, and now they were being deafened by the primal scream of Earth. Keep firing the rail guns. Alex ordered. While they are confused, hit them hard. The bastion roared, sending wave after wave of metal slugs into the disordered enemy. The Vorians tried to regroup, but their computers were fighting them, and the loud noise was breaking their concentration. It was a messy, ugly fight, exactly the way humans liked it. Down in the lower decks, Sergeant Tom Ironbaker stood by the airlock with his team of Marines. They were checking their rifles and putting on their heavy armor. The ship shook with every impact, but Tom stood steady. He was a big man with a scar running down his face, and he looked ready for a fight. Listen up! Tom shouted to his men. The ship is taking damage, and those aliens are going to try to board us. That's where we come in. We don't let them touch the bridge. We don't let them touch the engine room. We kill anything that comes through that airlock. The Marines shouted in agreement. They were scared, but they were also ready. For months, they had been running and hiding. Now, they were finally fighting back. On the bridge, the main view screen flickered as a Vorian face appeared again. It was Admiral Vex. He looked angry, his gray skin turning a darker shade. What is this noise? Vex hissed. Your tricks are primitive, human. You fight like a beast. You have no honor. Alex stood up and walked to the screen. We aren't here to trade honor speeches, Admiral. We are here to stop you. You destroyed our home. You killed our families. Honor doesn't bring them back. But this will. Alex pointed to the tactical display, where the Bastion's nuclear missiles were arming. You wouldn't dare, Vex said, his eyes widening. If you detonate a nuke this close, you will destroy yourself too. Maybe, Alex said coldly. But we are taking you with us. The transmission cut off. The Vorians were desperate now. They realized that the Bastion was not going to surrender. They realized that humans were willing to die just to see them burn. Incoming missiles. Sarah warned. But they aren't firing at us from a distance. They are launching boarding pods. Dozens of them. Mike shouted. They are attaching to the hull. They want to take the ship by force. Alex hit the ship-wide intercom. All hands, repel boarders. This is what we trained for. Make them bleed. The Bastion shook as the alien pods crashed into the hull, cutting through the metal like drills. The Vorians had decided that if they couldn't blow the humans up from the outside, they would kill them on the inside. They expected to find a terrified crew, huddled in corners. They were wrong. As the airlocks hissed open, revealing tall Vorian soldiers holding plasma rifles, they were met with a wall of lead. Tom Baker and his Marines opened fire without hesitation. The Vorian shields, designed to stop energy blasts, were weak against the high-velocity bullets of the human rifles. The close-quarters battle was brutal and loud. In the narrow corridors of the Bastion, the aliens' long-range weapons were useless, while the humans excelled. They used grenades, shotguns, and knives. They fought with a ferocity that terrified the aliens. The Vorians had never seen a species that could smile while bleeding. Back on the bridge, Alex watched the tactical map. The boarding parties were slowing down, but the Bastion was dying. The reactor was overheating, and the void drive was becoming unstable. Captain, Dr. Emily Stone said, her voice serious. The void drive is reaching critical mass. It's too unstable. If we keep fighting like this, it's going to detonate. Alex looked at the center of the screen, where Admiral Vex's massive ship was waiting. He knew what he had to do. The boarding parties were a distraction. The real target was the flagship. Let it heat up, Alex said softly. We are going to need that energy soon. Mike looked at him with horror. Captain, if the drive goes, it creates a black hole. We die. Not if we focus it, Alex said. We aren't running anymore, Mike. We are ending this. The ship shook again, harder than ever. The lights went out completely, leaving only the red glow of emergency battle stations. In the darkness, the crew of the Bastion didn't panic. They just reloaded their weapons and prepared for the final act. The galaxy was about to see the true power of Earth's last stand. The red warning lights on the bridge of the Bastion were flashing so fast they were almost a steady strobe. The ship was falling apart. Huge chunks of metal hull were peeling away, spinning off into the dark vacuum of space. The sound of tearing metal was deafening, drowning out the frantic voices of the crew. The Bastion was dying, but it was not dead yet. Captain Alex Mercer stood firm in the center of the chaos, clutching the captain's chair to keep his balance. Smoke billowed from the floor vents, making the air thick and hard to breathe. Every screen on the bridge was showing a critical error. We have a major problem, Captain. Mike screamed over the roar of the dying ship. The void drive is reaching critical mass. It's going to overload. Mike was pale, sweat pouring down his face. He stared at his readings in horror. The containment field is collapsing. If it explodes like this, it won't just destroy us. It will create a gravity well, a mini black hole. It will suck in the entire fleet, the shipyard, and the nearby refugee ships. We will kill everyone we came to save. Alex felt a cold chill in his stomach. A suicide mission was one thing, but killing the innocent refugees they were trying to protect was another. He looked at the view screen. The massive Vorian super-destroyer, commanded by Admiral Vex, was turning its massive guns toward them. It was preparing to finish the job. "We can't let it explode like a bomb," Alex said, his mind racing. "Mike, is there another way? Can we focus the energy?" "Focus it?" Mike asked, confused. "It's a reactor, not a laser." "Do it!" Alex shouted. "I don't care how. If we can't contain it, we have to direct it. Can we channel the explosion outward instead of inward?" Mike's fingers flew across his keyboard, typing commands faster than he ever had in his life. He was bypassing safety protocols, rewriting code in real time. "Maybe, if I invert the polarity of the exhaust manifolds and vent the core directly into the hull emitters, it won't be a black hole. It will be a massive electromagnetic pulse. An EMP. Will it kill them?" Sarah asked, reloading the tactical controls. "The Vorians use bioorganic circuitry," Emily shouted from her station. "Their ships are part machine, part living tissue. A massive EMP like that would fry their nervous systems instantly. It won't destroy the metal, but it will kill the ships. They will be dead hulks floating in space." "Do it," Alex ordered. "But we have to be close. The pulse needs to hit them directly, or their shields will absorb it." "Captain," Sarah warned, pointing at the screen. "The flagship is moving away. Vex knows something is wrong. He is trying to get out of range." Alex looked at the distance meter. They were too far. The bastion was limping, losing power with every second. They would never catch the flagship. "Not on my watch," Alex growled. He hit the ship-wide comms button. "All hands, brace for impact. We are going in." "Sir," Mike yelled, "what are you doing?" "We are going to park this ship inside theirs," Alex said. "Ramming speed. Target the flagship's bridge." The bastion groaned as the last reserves of power were pushed to the thrusters. The ship leaped forward, ignoring the damage, ignoring the pain. It was a runt of a ship charging a giant, but it had the heart of a warrior. On the lower decks, the situation was just as desperate. The airlocks had been breached, and Vorians were pouring into the ship. Sergeant Tom Ironbaker and his Marines were holding the corridor leading to the engineering section. "Get back! Get back!" Tom roared, firing his heavy rifle. The corridor was a mess of laser blasts and bullets. The Vorians were tall and strong, but they were used to fighting at a distance. In the tight, metal hallways of the human ship, they were clumsy. An alien soldier raised its weapon, but Tom didn't hesitate. He lowered his shoulder and tackled the creature, slamming it into the bulkhead. He pulled his combat knife and ended the fight instantly. There was no grace, only brutality. "They are trying to reach the engine room," one of the younger Marines shouted, panic in his voice. "Let them try," Tom yelled back, wiping blood from his eye. "This is our ship. They don't get to take it." The Marines formed a wall of bodies and steel. They knew that if the Vorians reached the engine room, the ship would be lost before Captain Alex could complete his plan. They fought with everything they had, throwing grenades and firing until their guns were smoking hot. Up on the bridge, the Vorian flagship was growing larger and larger on the screen. It filled the entire view, a wall of gray metal and green lights. 10 seconds to impact. Sarah yelled. Mike, tell me the pulse is ready. Alex shouted. It's ready, but it's unstable. Mike cried. As soon as we fire, it will burn out every electronic system we have. We will be dead in the water. No life support, no engines. We will be sitting ducks. We just need to fire once, Alex said. Hold on. The bastion slammed into the side of the Vorian flagship. The noise was indescribable, a screeching of metal against metal that vibrated through the bones of everyone on board. The bastion's nose crumpled, driving deep into the enemy hull. Debris exploded outward, and the bridge lights shattered, plunging the room into total darkness, lit only by the sparks of dying consoles. The impact threw everyone to the floor. Alex hit the deck hard, tasting blood in his mouth. He scrambled back to his feet, ignoring the pain. Mike, now! Alex screamed into the dark. I can't see the controls. Mike yelled. Use the manual override. Sarah shouted, crawling to her station. I'll give you the bearing. In the darkness, the crew worked by touch and memory. The bastion was embedded in the enemy ship, stuck fast. The Vorian guns were firing point blank, tearing huge holes in the human ship. Outside, the boarding pods on the bastion stopped firing. The Vorians paused. They could feel the charge building up in the Earthship. It was a sensation they had never felt before, a static in the air that made their scales itch. Energy spike at 100%. Emily yelled, her face illuminated by the glow of her handheld screen. Fire! Mike slammed his fist down on the large red button. A silent wave of energy erupted from the bastion. It was invisible, a distortion in reality that moved faster than thought. It didn't just hit the flagship, it washed over the entire fleet. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the lights on the Vorian ship simply vanished. The glowing green engines went dark. The massive thrusters shut down. The hum of the bioorganic computers stopped dead. In the corridors of the alien ships, the Vorian soldiers froze. Their armor locked up. Their weapons stopped working. The very systems that kept them alive and connected were gone. On the bridge of the bastion, the last of the lights died. The hum of the engine faded to silence. The ship was dead, drifting inside the carcass of the enemy flagship. Alex lay on the floor, gasping for air. The silence was heavy. The screaming alarms were gone. The explosions had stopped. Mike, Alex whispered into the dark. I'm here, Captain, Mike's voice came back, shaky and weak. We did it. We fired the pulse. Did we get them? Yes, Sarah said, her voice trembling. Look outside. Alex pulled himself up to the shattered viewport. Outside, the chaos of battle had frozen. Thousands of Vorian ships were floating motionless in the void. They were dark, powerless. The greatest fleet the galaxy had ever seen was nothing more than floating junk now. We killed them, Alex whispered. We killed the ships. He slumped back against the console. They were alive, but they were drifting in the dark, trapped in a dead ship. The battle was over, but the fight for survival was just beginning. Silence fell over the battlefield. It was a heavy, unnatural silence that pressed against the hull of the UESC bastion. The explosion of the void drive had not just stopped the enemy, it had stopped time itself for the Vorian fleet. Inside the bridge of the human ship, the air was cold. Without the reactor running, the temperature was dropping fast. The only light came from the faint glow of distant stars filtering through the cracked view screen. Captain Alex Mercer pulled himself up from the floor. His head pounded, and his vision was blurry. Every breath hurt, as if he had been punched in the chest. Around him, the bridge crew was starting to move. "Report," Alex whispered, his voice raspy. "Engine is dead," Mike said softly from the floor. He was holding his arm, which was bruised and bleeding. "The drive is burned out. We have no power. No shields. No life support." Sarah was trying to wipe blood from her forehead. She looked at the dark consoles, knowing there was no way to read them. "The gravity is gone," she said, floating slightly off the deck. "We are drifting." Alex grabbed a safety strap to anchor himself. He looked out the viewport. The scene was both beautiful and terrifying. The massive Vorian super-destroyer was motionless, attached to the Bastion's crushed bow. Beyond it, the thousands of ships of the Grand Fleet were silent. Their lights were out, their engines cold. It looked like a graveyard of metal stars. "We did it," Alex said. "We actually did it." Down in the lower corridors, the fighting had stopped instantly. Sergeant Tom Ironbaker floated in the hallway, surrounded by the bodies of Vorian soldiers. The aliens were not moving. Their bioorganic armor had shut down along with their ships, locking them in stiff, uncomfortable positions. A few of the Vorians were still alive, twitching inside their metal suits, but they were harmless. Tom looked at his surviving Marines. They were battered, bruised, and low on ammunition, but they were alive. He checked the pulse of a young private next to him. It was weak, but steady. "Rest easy, kid," Tom said, patting the soldier on the shoulder. "The cavalry is coming. I can feel it." Hours passed. The cold inside the ship became intense. The crew huddled together to share body heat. They watched the windows, waiting for something to happen. The Vorians were helpless, drifting like the humans, but without the hope of rescue. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared in the distance. Then another. And another. "Captain," Sarah said, pointing a shaking finger at the sky. "Look." New ships were dropping out of warp. They weren't Vorian ships. They were smaller, mismatched vessels of different shapes and sizes. It was the Coalition refugee fleet. They had turned back. They had seen the energy spike from the EMP and came to investigate, likely thinking the Vorians were destroying something or each other. The Coalition ships moved cautiously through the field of dead Vorian vessels. They must have been confused. The unbeatable enemy was just floating there, defenseless. One of the Coalition ships, a sleek silver cruiser, moved closer to the bastion. It carefully navigated the debris and approached the human ship. A bright light shone from the alien cruiser, illuminating the broken hull of the bastion. "They are scanning us," Mike said, his teeth chattering from the cold. "They see us. They know we are human." "Are they firing?" Alex asked, tensing up. "No," Sarah replied, squinting at the ship. They are slowing down. They are matching our drift." A few minutes later, a heavy thud echoed through the hull. The alien ship had extended a docking tube and attached it to the Bastion's airlock. The sound of pressurization filled the ship as air hissed into the tube. "We have company," Tom said over the comms, his voice weak but steady. "My men are too beat up to stop them if they want a fight." "Hold your fire, Tom," Alex ordered. "Let's see what they want." On the bridge, the crew watched the airlock door at the back of the room. It hadn't opened in years. The wheel on the door began to turn. With a loud clank, the door swung open. Standing there were 3 aliens. They were tall, with blue skin and large, dark eyes. They wore the uniforms of the Coalition High Command. They held scanner devices and looked around the dark, freezing bridge with shock. The lead alien stepped forward. He looked at the broken consoles, the shattered glass, and the wounded humans floating in zero gravity. He saw the Earth flag patch on Alex's arm. His eyes went wide. "You," the alien said in perfect English, his voice filled with disbelief. "You are the humans. The ones from Earth. We thought you were extinct." "We are hard to kill," Alex said. He unbuckled his safety belt and pushed himself toward the alien, refusing to show weakness even though his body screamed in pain. The alien looked past Alex, out the window at the disabled Vorian fleet. He looked at the single, broken human ship that had done the impossible. "We received your transmission," the alien commander said. "We saw the energy pulse. We came to witness the end of the war. But, you defeated them one ship against the Grand Fleet." "They made a mistake," Alex said, standing tall in front of the alien commander. "They thought we would give up. They didn't know what humans are capable of when we have nothing left to lose." The alien commander looked at Alex with a new expression. It was respect. For a century, the Coalition had been running from the Vorians. They had surrendered worlds without a fight. But this species, this primitive species from a distant planet, had refused to bow. "Your ship is dying," the commander said gently. "We can take your people aboard. We have medical facilities." "First," Alex said, "tell your fleet to secure those Vorian ships. They are disabled, not destroyed. Your people can capture them. The technology is yours now." The alien seemed stunned by this. Humanity was offering the greatest prize in the galaxy to the people who had abandoned them. You give us the victory?" the commander asked. "We did the heavy lifting," Alex said, a tired smile appearing on his face. "Just get us out of the cold." The commander nodded slowly and touched his chest in a salute. "It will be done. The galaxy will know what you did here today. Earth will be remembered." Medical teams rushed onto the bridge, floating in to help the wounded crew. Sarah and Mike were gently placed on stretchers. Tom's Marines were carried out, their weapons laid to rest. Finally, only Alex was left. He took one last look at the bridge of the bastion. It was a mess, but it was his home. He thought of the crew members who had died to bring them here. They hadn't died in vain. The war was over. The galaxy was shattered, but from the pieces, something new could be built. Alex let the medics lead him out of the ship. As he floated through the docking tube into the alien ship, the air became warm, and the lights became bright. He looked back one time. The UESC Bastion sat there, stuck in the side of the enemy flagship, a monument to human courage. Later, as the alien doctors treated his wounds, Alex watched from a window as the Coalition ships began towing the Vorian vessels away. The nightmare was finished. The Vorians were prisoners, and the galaxy was free. Humanity had been knocked down, kicked, and betrayed, but in the end, they were the ones who stood up tallest. "Captain," a nurse said softly. "You should sleep." Alex closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the last few months finally lift. "Yeah," he whispered. "I think we finally earned it." The war shattered the galaxy until Earth's final ship turned the tide. And the galaxy would never forget the name of the ship that saved them.